Hi dear friends, good morning to all. Dear friends, in the last part of the video, we have started the topic polymers and we discussed a lot of things regarding with the introduction of polymers and some basic terms which are very essential to understand in the study of polymers. We also talk about some day-to-day examples that we are using in our day-to-day life, and definitely we discussed about the different examples of polymers with respect to their monomers also. Dear friends, in this part of the video, now we are going to study about the classification of polymers, and I would like to tell you the classification of polymer is based upon the criteria that we are considering for the purpose of classification, and that's why the classification of polymers is of different types based upon the particular criteria, because there are so many criteria which can be taken into consideration for the classification of polymer, and if the criteria changes, definitely the type of classification also changes. So that's why, dear friends, today we are going to talk about the classification of polymers in detail with their respective examples also. And definitely whenever we will look at the classification of polymer with the help of this diagram, then you will come to know that there are different types of the polymers based upon the criteria. Definitely we will study all these types of the classification of the polymer in detail very well with respective examples in detail. But before this, we should know what are the different types of classification and what are the different types of the criteria on which we can classify the polymer. Definitely by looking at this chart diagram, you will come to know the different criteria used for the classification and as well as different types of polymers with respect to their classification. Dear friends, in the previous part already we tried to define the polymer. Polymer, this is a molecule or the compound which are consist of large number of monomers which are joined together by means of a covalent bond. So repetition of this monomer, or the whenever large number of the monomers which are joined together by means of covalent bond, then we are getting the very large molecule, large compound, and that large compound or the molecule is called as a polymer. So here this polymer can be classified on the basis of the source of formation of polymer, again the structure of polymer, as well as physical properties of the polymer. And if the polymers are classified based on their source, then based on the source there are three types of the polymer. The first one is called as the natural polymer, second one is called as synthetic polymer, and the third type based upon the source is called as semi-synthetic polymer. Definitely it is very interesting to know about all these types of three types of polymer based upon the source. We will study all these in detail later on. Again, dear friends, if we will look at the classification of polymer based upon the structure of polymer, how is the structure of polymer? Based upon that structure, again we can classify this polymer, and based upon the structure of polymer, these polymers are classified as a linear polymer, second one is called as cyclic polymer, third one is called as branched polymer, and the fourth type based upon the structure is called as cross-linked polymer. Actually this word in itself indicates that how is the structure, whether the structure is linear, cyclic, branch, or the cross-linked structure. Based upon this structure, these polymers are again classified with respect to their names like linear, cyclic, and branch, as well as cross-linked polymer. Again, based upon the thermal response, how the polymer gives response on heating, on that response these polymers are classified as thermoplastic polymer and the thermosetting polymer. Definitely the response of polymer will be different in presence of heating or on heating, and based upon the response of polymer to the heat, these are called as thermoplastic and thermosetting. Similarly, what are the that is how the physical properties of polymers are there, then based upon the physical properties of polymers, how they behave, then these polymers are again classified into different types based upon the physical polymer. These polymers are divided into different types as elastomer. Definitely this type of the polymer shows the property of elasticity, and these are also called as the plastic. If this shows the physical properties like a plastic, then it is called as a plastic fibers, and last one is the liquid. So these are the different types of the polymer based upon their physical properties. So dear friend, this is the short classification of polymers in the form of tree diagram, in the form of the chart, and definitely we are interested to study all these classification based upon their particular criteria, based upon the source, based upon the structure, based upon thermal response, and based upon their physical properties. So here definitely we are going to study all these classification one by one in detail with their respective example also. So first of all, we will talk about the first type of the classification of polymer, and that classification is based upon what? It is based upon the source. So already we got a clear idea in short about the classification of polymer based upon the different criteria, and the first classification is based on the source of the polymer, how the polymers are obtained. Based upon that method, based upon that process, this polymers are classified into different types, and you know very well, based upon the source, the first type of the polymer is called as the natural polymer. So here word itself indicates that the polymers which are obtained from the nature in the sense these are obtained from either plants or the animals, these polymers are called as the natural polymers. So whenever any polymer generally which is obtained from the plants or the animals, because these are the natural sources of the polymer, and that's why these polymers which are obtained from the plants and the animals will be called as natural polymers. So this is that is simply nature is the source of these polymers, and these polymers which are obtained from the nature are very essential for the life of the organism. Actually this is most important. So these polymers are obtained from the nature and essential for the life of the living organism. Again, there are various natural polymers which can be obtained from the nature, and the first polymer or the first example, I will say the not type, I will say the example, and that is called as the starch. Starch is the polymer of the glucose. So here whenever many or the large number of the glucose units or the glucose molecule are joined together by means of an covalent linkage, actually 1,4 linkage or the 1,6 linkage, then it gives the long chain of this glucose molecule, and that long chain of glucose molecule is called as the starch. So this starch is the polymer of glucose, and this starch acts as the food reserve of plant. So this is present in the plant, and it acts as the food reserve of the plant. The second example of this natural polymer which is obtained from the nature is called as the cellulose. So here this is again just like the starch, as it is it is also the polymer of the glucose. So this starch is also the polymer of glucose, and it acts as the structural material, chief structural material in the plant. So this is also found in the plant. Both the starch as well as cellulose present are found in the plants, but difference only is that starch acts as the reserve food of plant, while cellulose acts as the structural material of the plants. And here these both are made by means of plants. So these are formed in the plants from the glucose during the process of photosynthesis or by the process of photosynthesis. Actually this is very important to know about some example of the natural polymer. In addition to this starch and the cellulose, there are more example of this natural polymer, and the third example is called as the protein. Actually dear friends, this protein which is the polymer of alpha amino acid, whenever large number of the alpha amino acids are joined together by means of a peptide bond or the peptide linkage, then we are getting the long chain of this alpha amino acids, and the long chain of this alpha amino acid is called as the protein, which is also one of the natural polymer. Generally the number of alpha amino acid which found in the protein is variable from 20 to 1000. So definitely based upon the number of alpha amino acid, the size of the protein is also different, and generally the number of alpha amino acid present in different protein is variable in between 20 to 1000, and this protein acts as the structural unit, or I will say the building blocks of animal, because the structural unit or the building block of plant is cellulose, but the building block of animal body is called as protein. So this protein acts as the building block of animal body, and these are the essential part of our food. So that must be present in our food, and which are responsible for the building of the body. So structure of the body, it depends upon the protein, which is the polymer of alpha amino acid. Now if you look at the more example of this natural polymer, then this is one of the important, that is nucleic acid. This nucleic acid is the polymer of different nucleotide. Actually, what is nucleotides? Particularly, these are nucleotides of, that is nothing but simply in the form of RNA and DNA, that is ribonucleic acid and deoxyribonucleic acid. So all these polymers are very important in our in uh, the process of living organisms. And these polymers, such as polysaccharides, mean the carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, control the various life processes in plants as well as animals. And that's why all these molecules are responsible to control the various life processes in plants and animals. That's why all these are also called like the biopolymer, because these are the polymer, but these are essential to control the life process. These are essential for the life of the organisms, or the life of living organisms, and that's why these are also called like the biopolymer. Biopolymer in the sense, polymer is essential to control the life processes, or is essential for the life processes. That's why these polymers are called like the biopolymers. So in addition to this natural polymer, dear friends, there are more classification, more types of the polymers based upon the source. And definitely second type of the polymers based upon the source after the study of natural polymer, and the second type is called as synthetic polymer. Actually, word itself indicates synthetic. So these polymers which are synthesized or prepared in the laboratories. So these type of the polymers are prepared in the laboratory, these are synthesized in the laboratory, and that's why these polymers are also called as the man-made polymers. So the polymers which are synthesized in the laboratory, which are prepared in the laboratory, are called as synthetic polymer or man-made polymers. And the example, nothing in the polyethylene or polythene, PVC, polyvinyl chloride, nylon, Teflon, bakelite, synthetic rubber. Actually, dear friends, we are using all these polymers in our day-to-day life also, but these are synthesized, these are manufactured in the industry. This is prepared in the laboratory and manufactured in the industry. So these all are the man-made polymers. That's why these are called as the synthetic polymer. And after the second type, now the third type of the polymer based upon their source are called as semi-synthetic polymer. So this is not purely synthetic, this is semi-synthetic. Actually, these polymers mostly derived from the naturally occurring polymers. So these are obtained from the natural polymers by modifying their structure by chemical modification method. If you are doing something changes in the structure of natural polymer by means of chemical reaction, then the whatever modified natural polymers are there, these polymers are called as a semi-synthetic polymers. So dear friends, this is just the modification of natural polymer by means of a chemical method, by means of a chemical modification. That's why these are called as the semi-synthetic polymer. For example, suppose cellulose is treated, or cellulose is subjected for the acetylation reaction in presence of acetic anhydride and concentrated H2SO4, then this cellulose gives the formation of what? Cellulose diacetate. So this cellulose diacetate is the semi-synthetic polymer, while only cellulose is the natural polymer. So this cellulose diacetate is obtained from the natural cellulose. That's why it is, this cellulose diacetate is called as the semi-synthetic polymer. Similarly, this cellulose diacetate is used in making threads and material like films and the glasses. Another one is the vulcanized rubber, is also the example of semi-synthetic polymer, and which is used in making the tires of the vehicles. And in addition to this vulcanized rubber, another example of the semi-synthetic polymer is called as the gun cotton, which is simply a cellulose nitrate. So it is obtained from the cellulose, and it is used in making the explosives for different purposes. Rayon and the other cellulose derivatives are semi-synthetic polymers, and which are generally thermosetting. Actually, what is thermosetting? This is one of the type of the polymer based upon their response to the heat, or this is based upon their thermal response. Viscous rayon in the form of thin transparent film is known as cellophane, and which is softened with the glycerol. Whenever it is treated with the glycerol, it becomes soft, and unlike other material, it absorbs the water. So this is the classification of polymer based upon the source of polymer. How these are obtained? On the basis of this criteria, these are classified into three types: natural polymer, synthetic polymer, and the semi-synthetic polymer. So dear friends, in this way we try to discuss the first type of the classification of the polymer, which is the classification based on the source of polymer. How the polymers are obtained, that we call it as the source of polymer. So how the polymers are obtained, on the basis of these are classified as the natural polymer, synthetic polymer, and the semi-synthetic polymer. So dear friends, in this way we have completed the one type of classification based on the source of polymer. Similarly, we can classify this polymer based upon their structure, based upon their thermal response, as well as based upon their physical properties. So dear friends, we will discuss the remaining part of the classification of polymer in the next part of the video. Thank you very much.